On my 27th birthday, I waited for them. I had baked the cake myself, set the table, lit the candles and waited. The clock hit 7, then 8, then 9. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. Sorry, Savannah's launch party turned into a surprise birthday bash. Hope you understand. You don't really need all that fuss, right? That was it. They didn't forget. They just chose someone else again. My sister's party wasn't even her real birthday, but it had decorations, a DJ, and press coverage. Mine had silence, leftovers, and a single flickering candle. I didn't cry that night. I just stared at the untouched plates and realized love in this family had conditions, and I had never met them. What I didn't know then was that someone else had noticed everything, and months later, he would change my life with 5 simple words. You deserve more than this. Growing up, I used to think favoritism was just something kids made up when they felt left out, until I realized it had a name in our house. Savannah. She was the golden girl, the one with perfect curls, an easy smile, and a laugh that seemed to echo approval. By the time she turned 12, she had her own Instagram following. By 14, she had her own mini photo studio. Meanwhile, I had sketchbooks filled with designs no one ever looked at, and a bedroom wall covered in sticky notes that only I read. Savannah got ballet classes, private tutors, a professional camera, a fashion corner built by Dad in the garage. I got hand-me-downs, free YouTube tutorials, and the family computer with the broken spacebar. Birthdays were a clear mirror. Savannah's parties looked like Pinterest boards, pastel balloon arches, monogrammed cake toppers, and guest lists longer than wedding receptions. Mine? Pizza on paper plates, a sheet cake from the grocery store, and maybe a group photo if Mom remembered to charge her phone. One year, when I turned 16, I asked for a beginner design tablet. Just one. I saved links. I made a little presentation. Dad glanced at it and said, "That's a lot for just a hobby, Haley." That same month, Savannah got a 900 drone for her YouTube vlogs. For brand expansion, Mom said. I didn't complain. I never did. I figured if I just worked harder, kept my grades up, helped out more maybe, eventually, I'd be enough. But enough never came. At family gatherings, people would flock to Savannah. She's so charismatic. You should see her latest shoot. And then they'd look at me and ask, "Way so old are you again?" Like I was the background blur in Savannah's portrait. Over time, I stopped expecting. I stopped inviting. But this year was different. I had a good job now, a small apartment of my own, and enough savings to throw a birthday dinner for once in my life. I didn't want glamour, just one evening where I didn't feel invisible. So I sent out the invites, I cooked, I set the table, and I waited. And in the quiet that followed, something cracked not just in my heart, but in the years of stories I'd told myself to make their behavior okay. Because when your whole family skips your birthday not by accident, but by choice, you stop asking what's wrong with you, and start asking what's wrong with them. I checked the time again. 2 p.m. Okay. Maybe they were running late. I turned the dimmer up on the lights, reheated the garlic bread, fluffed the throw pillows. My playlist hummed gently in the background, jazzy, warm, curated for comfort, a birthday dinner for 6. That's all I wanted. Mom, Dad, Savannah, maybe Grandpa if he felt well enough. I even made herbed salmon Mom's favorite and printed cute little name cards for each seat. 7:34. Nothing. I sent a quick, "Hey, everything okay?" to the family group chat. No reply. At 6 p.m., I lit the candles on the cake anyway. Not because I still believed they'd come, but because the silence had grown too loud. My apartment smelled like roasted vegetables and rejection. Then, my phone buzzed. Mom. Hey, sweetie. Savannah's launch party turned into a surprise birthday thing too. Totally unplanned. You get it, right? She's under a lot of pressure right now. We'll celebrate you later this week. And then, 2 words that hit like a slap. You understand. No, I didn't. Because this wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th. But it was the first time they didn't bother to call. Didn't even pretend they were stuck in traffic. Didn't ask if I was okay. Just sent a casual text to justify turning my day into hers again. I stared at the cake for a long time. Vanilla bean with strawberry frosting. I'd made it myself from scratch. The little sugar flowers were melting now under the soft flame of the candles. I didn't blow them out. Didn't make a wish. What was the point? I sat down and served myself one slice, then another. Not out of hunger, just to fill the space. Each bite was heavy, like I was chewing through years of excuses. And then, just to be sure, just to kill the last sliver of hope, I checked Instagram. There it was. Savannah, standing under a rose gold balloon arch that read, Queen Energy, in glitter script. She wore a tiara. Of course. Behind her, Mom and Dad smiling wide, champagne in hand. Caption: celebrating my latest milestone with the people who matter most. High birthday vibes. The people who matter most. So there it was. In full color. Not only had they chosen not to come, they had chosen to be somewhere else and to pretend I didn't exist. I didn't cry. Not right away. I washed the dishes, blew out the candles, put the leftovers into Tupperware I knew I'd never open again. And I sat down in the dark and whispered, "Happy birthday, Haley," just to remind myself I was real. It was past 9:30. The food had gone cold. The candles had been blown out. I had changed into pajamas and was halfway through wiping off my makeup when a knock. 3 soft taps, like someone unsure if they were even welcome. I didn't move at first. My brain, numbed by disappointment, couldn't register that sound as real. Then it came again. 3 knocks. I shuffled to the door barefoot, tired, hollow. And when I opened it, I nearly dropped the towel in my hand. Grandpa? There he was. Walter Monroe, 83 years old, gray cardigan, slacks, and that worn leather messenger bag he'd carried since I was little. He held a small, square box, wrapped in blue paper, with a silver ribbon slightly crooked. And a warm, quiet smile that undid me completely. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "Traffic was a nightmare, and I don't move as fast as I used to." I blinked. You came?" He looked at me gently. "Of course I did. It's your birthday, isn't it?" That's when the tears came. Not dramatic sobbing, just a quiet stream, unexpected and unstoppable. He stepped in, took one look at the empty table, the untouched meal, the quietness that hung like a curtain, and said nothing. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. We sat down at the table. I reheated the salmon, poured 2 glasses of cider, sliced a fresh piece of cake. Grandpa raised his fork like it was a 5-star meal, took a bite, and beamed. "Best birthday dinner I've had in years," he said. We didn't talk much at first, just shared food, sipped slowly. I was so used to performing even in silence that it felt surreal to just be with someone who wasn't waiting for me to prove anything. Eventually, I broke. I told him everything. How I planned this night for weeks, how Mom texted like it was nothing, how Savannah's fake birthday party had swallowed mine, how I had spent the entire evening convincing myself it didn't matter until I saw them smiling in that post like I never existed. He listened without interruption, eyes steady and soft. When I finished, I looked away and said, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't deserve it." He reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. It was warm and rough, like a well-worn book cover. "No, Haley, they're just loud, but being loud doesn't make someone right." He squeezed my hand gently. "You don't have to earn a place in a family that should have made you feel loved from the beginning." I didn't say anything back, but something deep inside me shifted. For the first time all night, I felt seen. Not just pitied, not just tolerated. Seen. After that night, something changed. Not in my family, they didn't call, didn't check in. My birthday was never mentioned again. No belated texts, no guilt, no apologies. But something changed in me. I stopped trying to earn their love. I started staying late at work, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I pitched new campaigns, rebranded an entire travel client's identity, and finally got a long overdue raise. I spent weekends designing portfolio pieces for fun, applied for a remote masterclass in European, got accepted with partial scholarship. Meanwhile, Savannah opened her photography studio downtown. There was an article in the local paper with her grinning under fairy lights, flanked by mom and dad like a royal portrait. The caption read, "Savannah Monroe, building her brand with family by her side." I laughed when I read it. Not bitter, just tired. They'd built her throne with the bricks they stole from me. But I was done knocking at the door. And yet, despite the silence from everyone else, Grandpa kept showing up. Every other Sunday, he'd come over with a fresh box of bagels or a newspaper article he thought I'd like. He asked about my projects. He told me about Grace, the kind neighbor who helped him with groceries. Sometimes we sat on the balcony and just watched the city glow. I never asked for more. I never said what I feared most, that someday soon he wouldn't be there. And then, one Friday morning in late spring, the phone rang. It was Grace. Her voice cracked as she told me Grandpa had passed peacefully in his sleep. I don't remember much after that, just the way the room spun even though I was standing still, just the thought, he was the only one who ever came. The funeral was held at a small chapel near his home. The whole family was there suddenly so concerned, so united in grief. Savannah sobbed loudest, which felt strange considering she hadn't visited him in months. Mom clutched her pearls like she was starring in a drama. I stood apart, silent. As we exited the chapel, the family lawyer, Mr. Everett, approached me. He handed me a sealed envelope. "Your grandfather left a note, and he wanted you present at the official reading of his will next week. It'll be held at his house." The envelope had my name on it in Grandpa's handwriting. Simple, steady. I didn't open it right away. I just held it to my chest, like maybe his warmth was still there. But inside, I already knew. Something was coming. And this time, I wouldn't be invisible. The Monroe family gathered at Grandpa's house exactly 1 week after the funeral. It was surreal walking through the front door without him there. The wooden floor creaked the same. His favorite lamp glowed warm in the corner. The scent of old books and orange peel lingered in the air. But the soul of the place was gone. Still, everyone came. Mom wore her somber pearls again. Dad nodded at people like he was the one orchestrating the event. Savannah arrived in head-to-toe black silk and dramatic sunglasses, like she was mourning the loss of a kingdom. I sat in the far corner of the room, quiet, watching. Mr. Everett, the family lawyer, stood at the front near the fireplace. He placed a thick, leather-bound folder on the table and cleared his throat. Walter Monroe prepared this document with me 2 months before his passing. He also left a video message to be played once the will is read. Everyone straightened in their seats. Some leaned forward. Others exchanged glances. Mom reached for Dad's hand. Everett began. First, he listed Grandpa's estate. A lakefront house valued at $1.2 million. Investment portfolio totaling $3.4 million. Antiques and personal possessions worth over $400,000. A classic car collection. And a trust fund held in reserve. Total value, over $5 million. Then came the moment. To my granddaughter, Haley Monroe. I blinked. I leave the entire estate in full. The room didn't fall. Silent Hit exploded. What the hell? That was Dad. You've got to be kidding. Savannah stood up, her sunglasses nearly flying off. She barely visited him. This must be a mistake. Mom's voice cracked into a shrill pitch. Everett held up a hand. Please, there's more. He pressed a button on a remote. The TV screen flickered on, and there he was. Grandpa, sitting on the porch, wearing his usual cardigan, looking straight into the lens. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. I'm not one for drama, so I'll keep it simple. He paused. Haley, this is for you. I felt everyone's eyes swing toward me. I've watched you grow up in the shadows of people who should have protected and celebrated you, and I've watched them take and take from you, from me, from each other. You never asked for anything. You only ever gave. Savannah scoffed. This is ridiculous. But Grandpa kept speaking. They say blood is thicker than water, but love? Love is thicker than both. He looked straight into the camera again. That's why I'm leaving it all to you. He ended the message with a quiet nod. No tears, no goodbyes, just truth. Everett shut off the TV. No one spoke. Until Mom did. This is betrayal. That's what this is. We were his children. I finally stood. Not to argue, not to justify, just to speak. You were his children. I was his choice. And with that, I left the room. I didn't need to hear the rest. The pleas, the accusations, the spin. Because in that moment, I wasn't invisible anymore. I was undeniable. They didn't call for 3 days. Then, like clockwork, the flood began. It started with a knock on my door. Aunt Denise, someone I hadn't spoken to since I was 15, stood there holding a pie she clearly didn't bake. Her smile was brittle, her eyes scanning the condo like she was measuring square footage. Just wanted to check in, sweetheart. We're all still processing the will, you know? So, sudden. Then came the shift. Anyway, your uncle's been having heart trouble. We're hoping to get him into a specialist in Boston. Insurance doesn't cover much. 40,000 is all we need, just a loan, of course. I didn't flinch. I'm sorry. I can't help you. The smile cracked. She left with the pie still on my kitchen counter. Then came my cousin Drew. He just happened to be in the area. Needed 10,000 for a business idea. Then Savannah. A phone call this time. Haley, you know this isn't fair, right? We're family. I let her speak. Listened as she shifted from sweet to sarcastic to venomous. You think one emotional video makes you the heir to everything? You're not special. You're a backup plan. I didn't respond, just hung up. But the one I knew would come, the one that always came, was Mom. She showed up unannounced, stood at my doorway like she still had authority. No pie. No excuses. We need to talk. I let her in. She sat down on my couch like she still belonged there. No apologies, just strategy. Your father and I are in a tough spot. The house, the mortgage. We gave everything to help Savannah launch her studio. We trusted she'd bring us all up. Pause. And now, you have the resources. Surely you don't want us to suffer in our old age. I looked at her for a long moment. And then I said, gently, you once told me I didn't deserve a birthday, that I didn't need a party, or recognition, or even a meal. She blinked. I remember. I continued, voice calm. You were wrong. I did deserve all of it. And now, I deserve the peace I've built. You don't get to share in it just because it's convenient. She opened her mouth, closed it, then stood, silent. As she reached the door, I added, tell Dad I hope the next time he gambles on someone, he chooses love over optics. She didn't look back. And I didn't feel guilty. Not this time. With a storm behind me, I finally had space to breathe. I sold Grandpa's house, his quiet lakefront retreat, for just under $1.2 million. Not because I didn't love it, but because I knew he wouldn't want me tethered to a place that reminded me of loss. He'd want me to move forward. So I did. I used part of the money to rent a sunlit loft in a quiet corner of Boulder, with white brick walls and a balcony covered in ivy, a place that felt mine. Then I opened my laptop, stared at the blinking cursor on a blank proposal, and started to build something bigger than myself. I called it The Invisible Scene. A community art initiative, free workshops for underprivileged youth who loved design, sketching, photography, storytelling, kids whose talents were often labeled hobbies, like mine once were. I hired local artists, bought equipment, created scholarship pathways. Within 3 months, we had over 60 applicants. Some had never even owned their own pencils. Now, They were designing digital portfolios and getting internships. One girl named Mila reminded me of me. Quiet, overlooked. She cried the first time someone praised her work. I cried too because I understood exactly why. And maybe that was the point. I couldn't change my past. Couldn't rewrite the birthdays that never happened. But I could break the cycle. Every Saturday, I host what I call the unbirthdays. We gather in the studio, eat cake, celebrate no one in particular, maybe everyone. Kids who never had a party now get balloons, handmade cards, music. Sometimes they ask me why I do it. I just smile and say, because you deserve it. They don't always believe me right away, but I keep saying it, until one day, they say it back. It arrived in a small cream-colored envelope. No return address, no markings. Just my name, handwritten in the same steady, careful script I'd known since childhood. Inside, folded neatly into thirds, was a letter. No legal language, no instructions. Just him. Dear Haley, if this has found you, it means I'm gone. Don't let that part make you sad too long. I've lived a long life, and the best part of it was watching you find your voice. I know your birthdays were lonely. I know the dinners, the applause, the love went elsewhere. I saw it. I saw all of it. I'm sorry I didn't step in sooner. I thought being quietly supportive was enough. I was wrong. That's why I left you everything. Not to make things even, but because I believe in you, because you've always given more than you were given, because you love without asking for credit. And because one day, I want you to look in the mirror and say it to yourself without hesitation. I deserved better, and I built it anyway. Love you always. Grandpa. I sat at my kitchen table long after reading it. The afternoon sun spilled across the hardwood. Outside, the kids from my art center were giggling as they painted chalk murals on the sidewalk. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was missing something. I didn't feel like a shadow in someone else's light. I was standing fully in my own. To anyone listening, if your family made you feel invisible, if they showed up for others but never for you, if they convinced you that you didn't deserve the party, the cake, the love, they were wrong. You don't have to prove your worth to people who refused to see it when it was freely offered. You can walk away. You can build your own peace. You can become someone your past never expected you to be. Because you are not what they didn't give you. You are what you chose to become despite it. And that's more powerful than any will, any inheritance, or any birthday they ever forgot.